By the time the vote was called, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The Galactic Senate of Concordia. Prime shimmered like a living cathedral, thousands of delegates suspended in vast, concentric tiers around a single core of light. The dying blue star outside bled its color through the glass vault, washing everything in a cold, fading hue. Each species glowed differently in that light, some crystalline, some vaporous, others plated in organic metal, but all radiated judgment. At the center stood a single human, Commander Arya Solani, envoy of Earth, hair bound tight, uniform immaculate, eyes calm. She looked impossibly small against the immensity of the chamber. Yet something in her stillness unsettled even the oldest races. High Consul Vreth Kalthun's voice carried across the chamber like the tolling of a crystal bell. Order convenes. Final vote on motion 711A, the exile of the Terran species from all conquered space. The translation filters hummed as his words rippled through 10,000 minds. Holographic sigils flared. I. A storm of glowing affirmation sweeping through the tiers. Vreth's glassy face flickered with satisfaction. You have had centuries to adapt, Commander. Yet humanity remains anomalous. You tamper with the forbidden. You weaponize curiosity. You ignite wars wherever you walk. You are in essence a contagion of chaos. Arya didn't blink. And yet, she said quietly, we build after every fire. A murmur swept the chamber. The consul's crystal carapace shifted, colors fracturing like light through ice. You mistake resilience for virtue. The galaxy requires harmony, not defiance. Arya's voice remained level. Harmony without freedom is death, Consul. He turned from her, addressing the chamber. You see? They cannot comprehend peace. They speak of freedom while burning worlds to prove it. The Senate's tears erupted again in shimmering agreement. The great display sphere above them filled with symbols, and as each species cast its vote, the tally formed, a rising wall of crimson light. Arya watched silently as the numbers grew. She could read the inevitable long before it finished. Exile confirmed, 94%. The decision burned across the dome like a sentence carved in fire. Cheers echoed from the upper tiers. Relief swept through countless delegates who had feared the alternative. To them this was safety restored, order preserved. But to Arya it was liberation. She raised her chin, the faintest smile touching her lips. So that's your peace, she said softly. A peace built on silence. The consul folded his long crystalline hands. You will be escorted from Concordia within one rotation. All Terran colonies are to withdraw. Any who remain will be detained or erased. Yes, I've read your decree. Her tone was almost gentle. You believe exile ends us, but it only ends your illusion of control. Vreth's crystalline form flared an irritated blue. Do not mistake arrogance for... Arya stood alone in the center of the empty chamber. For a long moment she looked up at the faint reflection of Earth's emblem still lingering. On the fading holographic map, a blue sphere surrounded by dim points of light, one by one. Those lights flickered out as the Concord disconnected humanity from its networks. Trade routes erased, beacons deactivated. Even history files vanished from the Senate's archives, erased, as if the species had never existed. Footsteps echoed softly behind her. It was Dr. Leon Amani, head of the Terran Scientific Assembly. His dark eyes shimmered with controlled rage. They applauded while cutting our throats. Then they didn't cut deep enough, Arya replied. He stared at her, searching for outrage that wasn't there. You're not angry. I'm tired, she said simply. Tired of asking to be understood. Maybe it's better this way. Vreth's image still glowed faintly on the dais, recording the proceedings. Arya walked to it and looked straight into the still active lens. Consul, she said, voice steady. You fear us because we refuse to kneel. You call us chaos, but your order is built on stagnation. You'll find the galaxy grows cold without fire. She shut off the recorder with a tap. Dr. Imani hesitated. Arya, what will we tell Earth? The truth, she said. That we were never part of their galaxy. We were just visiting. They exited together, passing beneath the Senate's towering archway. The corridor outside was a canyon of alien banners fluttering in artificial wind. Most envoys turned away as they passed. A few looked at them with something like sorrow, others with disgust. None spoke. When they reached the docking platform, the UNS Horizon waited, a vast, silver vessel flanked by the banners of the United Terran Fleet. Its hull reflected the pale star above, its engines already humming. Arya paused at the airlock. They think exile will break us. she said quietly. But exile is just another frontier. Imani nodded slowly. Then we'll map it. She stepped aboard, the doors sealing behind her. The ship's AI greeted her softly. Welcome home, Commander. She smiled. Set course for Seoul. We have farewells to make. As the horizon lifted, Concordia, Prime receded into the void, a glittering city fading beneath the dying star. From the bridge viewport, the Senate's dome was no larger than a speck of glass. Arya watched it vanish, her reflection overlaying the stars. There was no sadness in her eyes, only a quiet determination. Humanity had been exiled, but she understood something the galaxy never would. Exile wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The message from the Conquered arrived hours later, formal and final. Effective immediately, the Terran species is expelled from the Galactic Conquered. Any attempt to re-enter conquered space will be treated as an act of aggression. Arya read it once, then deleted it. History will remember who closed the door, she murmured, and who walked. The silence of exile wasn't empty. It was alive. Beyond the edge of the Conquered's borders, the void thickened. Radio signals fell away. Star maps became uncertain. Even light seemed slower, colder. The UNS horizon drifted through that darkness, like a ghost carrying 7,000 souls in the memory of an entire world. Commander Arya Solana stood on the bridge, watching a holographic map flicker uncertainly. The navigation grid trembled, unable to lock onto conquered beacons. One by one, their markers blinked out, red to gray, gray to nothing. Beacon network offline, reported Lieutenant Ree, her voice taut. Galactic navigation is gone. We're blind beyond 1 parsec. Dr. Leon Imani adjusted his neural visor, studying the static-laced starfield. We're not blind. Just unsponsored. Arya allowed herself a faint smile. Then we'll chart our own stars. The ship's AI, Vox, spoke through the intercom, voice low and precise. Commander, long-range scans detect residual energy from conquered defense buoys. Suggest increasing stealth field strength by 20%. Do it, Arya said. Let's not give them an excuse. To say we trespassed before we've even left their sky. The horizon slid deeper into ungoverned space. Outside the viewport, the familiar constellations of the inner arm began to twist, warped by their growing distance. Humanity's cradle was shrinking behind them. Ree muttered softly. Feels like the stars themselves are turning their backs. Imani glanced at her. They're just realigning. We're seeing them for what they truly are, unmapped. The ship's corridors carried a strange quiet that wasn't despair but anticipation. Crew members moved with purpose, but their eyes carried the same question. What now? In the observation deck, a crowd had gathered. Soldiers, engineers, even children of the colony families, all staring out at the infinite black. Someone had projected Earth's image onto the glass, the blue sphere glowing softly, spinning slowly as if unwilling to fade. Transmission from the Sol Council, Vox announced. Arya took it in her ready room. The hologram flickered to life. President Nakai, gray-haired and steady-eyed, appeared over her desk. Commander Selene, we received the Conquered's final verdict. Earth's networks are dark across all channels. We've been cut off from interstellar markets, communication relays and transport lanes. The colonies are panicking. Arya leaned forward slightly. Tell them not to. Easy to say. Harder when every trade world is sealing its ports. Then we make our own. The president's hologram looked weary. We have barely enough fuel to sustain the outer colonies. We need allies, not pride. We need direction, Arya corrected gently. The Concord called us chaos because we move. We build, that's what we'll do again. He studied her for a moment. You sound almost grateful for the exile. Maybe I am, she said. We've spent centuries asking for permission. He gave a soft, humorless laugh. That's what I like about you. You say impossible. Things like they're instructions. Because they are. He sealed the manifold, wiped his hands on a rag. There's something else. We've been detecting anomalies, energy signatures that don't match any known. Conquered tech. Alien? He hesitated. Older, pre-conquered maybe. But they're out there and they're active. Her eyes narrowed. Send me the data. 3 hours later, Arya stood in the dark of the bridge, watching the holographic replay. A lattice of faint golden signals pulsed beyond the edge of the chart. Not natural, structured, like a heartbeat recorded across centuries. Coordinates? She asked. Ree answered quietly. Sector E37, approximately 4 light years off our current course. Any indication it's hostile? Unknown. But the readings repeat in harmonic patterns. It's calling to something. Arya folded her arms. Then we answer. Ree blinked. Commander, with respect, exploring unidentified. Energy signatures when we're one jump from total fuel loss isn't exactly protocol. Protocol belonged to the conquered, Arya said. We belong to ourselves. She turned to Vox. Plot a course to E37. Minimal energy signature. Let's meet whoever's still awake out there. The journey took 16 hours in deep fold. The horizon creaked and moaned, as if it too resented being pushed. Beyond known physics. Crew slept in shifts. Lights dimmed to conserve power. The hum of the engines was a heartbeat through every wall. When they dropped from fold space, the stars returned like embers in ash. Ahead stretched an endless field of drifting metallic structures, massive rings, broken towers, fragments of cities suspended in nothing. Ree whispered, "What in God's name?" Imani leaned close to the viewport. "This isn't debris. It's architecture. Millions of years old." "Scan for power," Arya ordered. Vox replied instantly. Residual energy detected in the central spire. Faint but consistent. "Bring us closer." The horizon glided through the field. Hull lights brushing ancient alloys etched with runes no one recognized. Some fragments were the size of continents. Others looked almost biological. Ree murmured, "This place shouldn't exist." Imani's voice carried quiet awe. "Maybe it's what the conquered built their myths on. The first architects." Arya said nothing. Her eyes were fixed on the central spire, a colossal structure shaped like a spear aimed at eternity. As they approached, a pulse rippled through the debris field, soft and rhythmic. Vox's voice dropped an octave. "Commander." The signal increased in response to our proximity. "It knows we're here." A low vibration rolled through the deck plates. Consoles flickered, power readings spiked. The ship's lights dimmed, then steadied. "Status," Arya barked. Ree's fingers danced over her console. "Energy draw from the central spire. It's linking with our systems." Title: The galaxy voted to exile Earth. Humanity smiled and walked away. Chapter 3. The Forge of the Void. 1,000 words. The ancient field of ruins became humanity's first refuge. The horizon drifted among metallic shards that glowed faintly in ultraviolet hues. What had once been forgotten wreckage now felt like potential. Commander Arya Selene stood in the observation dome, studying the glowing lattice beneath them. The fragments weren't dead. They were dormant, waiting for purpose. Dr. Leon Imani joined her, data slate in hand. "We've been scanning the material for hours. It's not like anything in the conquered archives. It reacts to our power emissions, adapts even." Arya turned toward him. "You think it's alive?" He hesitated. "Not alive, but self-organizing. These fragments, they remember structure. They're repairing themselves, using our energy as a catalyst." A quiet hum passed through the hull, almost like a response. The ship's lights flickered once, then stabilized. "Whatever this place is," Arya murmured, "it's listening." In the command deck, Lieutenant Ree monitored a three-dimensional display of the surrounding debris. Slowly, the fragments began to shift position, subtle at first, then deliberate. Rings aligned, towers rotated, forming geometric symmetry that hadn't existed for millennia. Ree called out, "Commander, the debris field is reconfiguring, no external force detected. It's organizing itself around us." Vox, the ship's AI, interjected, "Patterns indicate architectural design, possible reactivation of an automated assembly protocol." Arya's pulse quickened. "Are we triggering it?" "Affirmative. The field is responding to the horizon's reactor output." Imani swore under his breath. "Our energy is waking the ruins." Arya leaned over the holographic projection. Massive sections of alloy drifted together, locking into place with the precision of celestial gears. It was as if the void itself was remembering how to build. "Keep power steady," she ordered. "No interference." Over the next 16 hours, the field transformed. Pieces of the ancient architecture fused, sealing into colossal structures. By the time the process ended, an enormous station floated before them, dark silver and faintly glowing, shaped like a ring split by a spear of light. Imani's voice carried disbelief. "That wasn't assembly, it was resurrection." Ree whispered, "We should leave." "Whatever this is, it was never meant for us." Arya didn't answer immediately. She stared at the vast, silent ring through the viewport. Or maybe it was. Maybe this is what they left behind, for whoever dared to step beyond the map. Vox broke the silence. Energy readings indicate a breathable atmosphere and gravity within acceptable range. Entry appears safe. Arya turned toward her officers. Then we go. Full recon team. If this station is functional, it might be the foundation we need. Inside the station, weeks passed. Erebos grew from a silent ruin into a living citadel. Energy conduits blazed across its spine. Reactors pulsed like a heartbeat, and human habitats bloomed along its inner ring. Ree stood at the viewport, staring at the construction lights. We did this in weeks. The Conquered takes decades for a single habitat. Imani smiled faintly. Exile breeds innovation. Arya entered the command deck, uniform crisp, expression resolute. Transmission from Earth's outer colonies. They're starving for supply routes. Erebos will change that. This station isn't just a refuge. It's a beginning. Commander, Vox interrupted. Long-range detection grid is active. Unidentified vessels approaching at high velocity. Rechecked the readings. Conquered patrols. They're sweeping the border zones. Arya's jaw tightened. They don't know what we've built. And they won't. Imani asked quietly. Do we hide or do we show them what exile made of us? Arya turned toward the massive structure beyond the viewport, the symbol of everything humanity had endured and reclaimed. We stay silent, she said. Let them believe we vanished. The next time they see us, it'll be when we decide. Later in the solitude of her quarters, Arya stared at a projection of the galaxy. The Conquered's territory glowed like a net of light. Beyond it, vast stretches of darkness waited, untouched, unruled. Her reflection shimmered across the glass. For the first time in centuries, humanity wasn't a subordinate civilization. It was something else, something new. She whispered to herself, exile wasn't punishment. It was permission. Outside, Erebos pulsed with life, metal, light, and will fused into a single creation. Humanity had been cast into the void, but from that silence, they had forged their first new world. And deep within the station's core, the architect node whispered in its alien tone, the builders return. The forge awakens. Arya smiled faintly. Then let's build a future no one can exile again. Erebos Station no longer drifted in darkness. It ruled it. A decade had passed since exile. What began as survival had become evolution. The once silent station was now the heart of a new civilization spanning 8 frontier systems. Ships forged in human and architect alloy roamed the uncharted void, each one faster, smarter, and more independent than any vessel the Conquered had ever designed. From her command platform aboard the UNS Dauntless, Commander Arya Selene watched the final test of humanity's first intersystem gate. 2 shimmering rings pulsed in orbit, connected by a thread of folded light. The energy hum reverberated through her bones. Dr. Leon Imani's voice echoed from the control deck. Stabilization at 98%. Field integrity holding. Arya crossed her arms. Initiate the jump sequence. The air thickened as the gate flared open, a window of distorted reality. For the first time since exile, humanity had rebuilt the ability to bridge the stars on their own terms. Imani grinned, awe in his voice. We've done it, Arya. We've just rebuilt the impossible. She nodded slowly. No, we just remembered how. Back on Erebos, life had taken root in ways no one predicted. Vast domes held cities of light, forests grown under artificial suns, and rivers flowing across metal plains. Children who had never seen. Earth played beneath holographic skies that shimmered, with stars unknown to any map. Lieutenant Ree stood beside a balcony overlooking the bustling atrium. You realize, Commander, some of these kids don't even know what the Conquered is. To them, exile isn't loss, it's history. Arya leaned on the railing. That's how it should be. They don't need to grow up defined by someone else's rejection. Still, Ree said, the Conquered hasn't forgotten us. We've intercepted 3 of their probes near the border sectors. They're looking. Arya's tone sharpened. Then it's time they saw what we became. The opportunity arrived sooner than expected. 2 weeks later, the border sensors lit up with Concord signatures. 12 vessels entering. Erebos space. The fleet's insignia glowed across the tactical display. Galactic Concord Enforcement Division. Their arrival wasn't an attack, but it wasn't peace either. Transmit their hail, Arya ordered. A familiar face materialized on the holoscreen. High Consul Vreth Calthun, crystalline features gleaming under harsh light. His voice was smooth but heavy with caution. Commander Selene, humanity was believed lost, and yet here you are, building structures of forbidden design. Do you understand the gravity of this violation? Arya's gaze was steady. We understand it better than you think. You called it exile. We called it freedom. You were exiled, for he broke it first. They'll bring reinforcements. You know, Thmani exhaled. They see us as a threat because Rhea looked out toward the void, where the Concord fleet waited at the edge of Erebos space. Then we'll... She turned to... Arya's reply was calm. Hold our fire. Imani frowned. If they shoot... They won't, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. They're afraid of what happens if they fail. Outside, the alien warships aimed their cannons, but before a single blast was fired, Erebos responded, not with weapons, but with brilliance. Dozens of massive constructs rose from its orbit, ancient and new at once, architect cores fully reactivated. Energy rippled between them, forming a shield of luminous geometry. The conquered ships halted instantly, sensors overwhelmed by readings that defied logic. Vreth's face reappeared on the comms, his composure strained. What is this? What have you unleashed? Arya met his gaze. You thought you exiled us into silence, but you sent us to where the builders slept. We didn't find weapons, we found purpose. You're tampering with forces beyond understanding. Then learn, she said. That's what we did. As the standoff stretched, Arya gave the final order. Broadcast our coordinates to the galaxy. Let everyone see. Imani turned sharply. You're exposing us. Yes, she said, because hiding means fear. And fear was the Conquered's religion. Across the galaxy, trillions watched as transmissions from Erebos flooded the networks. Images of vast human-built worlds, the fusion of architect and human technology, the glowing ring cities, all of it streamed across every channel. In one broadcast, Arya stood before the shimmering forge gate, speaking to every world that had once judged them. You said we were too dangerous. You were right. We're dangerous to stagnation, dangerous to obedience, but not to life. We build, we adapt, we rise. You exiled humanity from your galaxy, so we built our own. Her voice carried the weight of centuries and the promise of eternity. Back aboard the Dauntless, the conquered fleet began to retreat. They couldn't comprehend what they were facing, a civilization reborn in exile, armed not with war but with evolution. Vreth's final message was brief. If you step beyond your border again, there will be no coming back. Arya's reply was colder than the void. We never planned to. When the last conquered ship vanished into the dark, the bridge erupted in quiet relief. Rhys smiled faintly. So that's it? We're finally free? Arya shook her head. Freedom isn't something you're given. It's something you take and then defend by existing. Imani stepped beside her, watching the glowing forge gate beyond the viewport. So what now? Arya's eyes reflected the gate's light. Now we expand. The void's still wide. Let's see what's waiting on the other side. She turned toward the crew, her voice steady and bright. Prepare the first wave. Humanity walks again. Moments later, the Dauntless glided toward the shimmering portal. Engines flared as the gate unfolded, light spilling across the command deck. The ship's hull trembled, not from fear, but anticipation. The final transmission recorded,